So our legal update today will be the three ways to purchase property subject to an existing mortgage. So the first way is your standard transaction, right? So that's where you purchase the property with a warranty deed, the liens remain, and then you provide the seller with a note and deed of trust that basically wraps what we call a wrap. It wraps around the existing loans that are going to remain, so that if the buyer does not perform, the seller has a remedy, and the remedy is they can complete their own foreclosure, take the property back. So that's one. The second thing that you can do is what's called an agreement for sale. Some states call it a contract for deed or a land installment contract. And that's basically where you will not take fee title to the property, but you enter into an agreement whereby you're going to pay certain amounts over time. And so there's normally a principal amount, there's interest on that principal, and then there's payments that are made monthly or quarterly or however you structure them. Maybe there's a balloon payment at the end, but basically you agree that over a period of time, you're going to make these payments. And if you make those payments and you complete that, and the payments will result in not only performing under the agreement for sale, but those payments are going to result in paying off the loan that's remaining on the property. Once that is all paid and everything's paid under the agreement for sale, then a warranty deed is provided to the buyer, and then the buyer can take that warranty deed and record it. And that warranty deed would then effectuate the transfer of title from the seller to the buyer. But in the meantime, while the buyer is making these payments and performing under the agreement for sale, the buyer has the right to possess the property, to improve the property, basically to treat the property as their own. The only difference is they don't have an owner or a fee title ownership interest in the property. They have an equitable ownership interest with a right to obtain fee title at some future time upon their performance under the agreement for sale. Then the third uh, way to accomplish this would be to enter into a lease agreement with the seller, uh, whereby they technically wouldn't be a seller at that point. They would become a landlord, but it's a long-term lease that would allow you as the investor to sublet the property. So you would enter into a long-term lease. You would then have the right to sublet the property with an option to then purchase it at some future time. And so you would be looking to say, okay, it's a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to purchase. And anytime during these 5 years, I can exercise the right to purchase it. And here's the set price, or you can agree on some means to calculate the purchase price at some future time. But that's another way to basically acquire or take, in this case, possession with the right to purchase property that is subject to the existing loans. So the existing loans would remain. You would simply become a tenant. Which method you use really depends on a number of factors, right? So the first would be, what are the loans that are out there? What do you as the investor feel about the due on sale clause for that particular lender and loan? How does the seller feel about the, potential that there might be a due on sale clause that's invoked, right? So if you convey property that's subject to an existing loan, if you do that, you give the lender a right. Whether they exercise that right or not is a whole different story, but you give the lender the right to basically start foreclosure proceedings or accelerate the loan balance and declare the full loan due. So you say, okay, well, maybe a long-term lease won't invoke the due on sale clause, and so I'll do the long-term lease. Or an agreement for sale is better because I'm not actually taking fee title, although that might actually invoke the due on sale clause. So that's one, is how do you feel about the due on sale clause? The second is, what is the seller, comfortable with? The seller may not want to provide fee title ownership interest, even though all three of these have the same result, which is possession in the hands of the investor. So the investor possesses it, can use the property how they may, with the ability to purchase it. But one is an actual outright fee title purchase to the property, and the seller may be like, "Ah, I'm not comfortable with that, but I might lease it to you for 5 years and give you an option to purchase." Or maybe we'll do an agreement for sale, because of the fact that, in an agreement for sale, I'm not actually giving you ownership. And if you don't perform early on, I have a quicker remedy as far as a, forfeiture, so the seller may be more comfortable. And it's really you as the investor what strategies you're comfortable employing as well. So there's a number of factors that go into which of those three you want to utilize, but those are the main three. There's some other more creative things out there that I won't get into, but those are the main three tried and true methods that can be utilized to basically take over property that's subject to an existing loan.